Good evening. This is the New Dawn FM News in English, read to you by Dolores Talasi. First, the headlines. Schools in Bougainville to resume classes next week. Government offices must ensure to have proper new normal safe workplace arrangement. MASU acknowledges workers for successfully completing classroom projects. Emergency Order 2 on commercial flights into Bougainville remains in force, and Chief raised concern regarding the terms of the ABG House of Representatives. Now the news in detail. All schools in the autonomous region of Bougainville are to resume classes starting next week on Monday, the 11th of May 2020. This announcement was made by the State of Emergency Controller in Bougainville after revoking Order 3 of the Emergency Order 1 and issuing new orders to be implemented in schools. Schools resuming classes next week should comply with the new orders issued as follows. 6 students, teacher and other staff not to go to school. Reinforce frequent hand washing and installing of hand washing stations with soap and water in strategic areas of the school with information on how to wash hands properly. If possible, place hand sanitizers in each classroom, at the entrances and exits, and near lunchrooms and toilets. Clean and disinfect school buildings, classrooms, especially water and hand sanitation facilities at least once a day, particularly surfaces that are used by many people like railings, lunch tables, sport equipment, door and window handles, toys, teaching and learning aids. Ensure trash is removed daily and disposed safely. Provide adequate, clean and separate toilet latrines for students. Implement physical distancing practices that may include staggering at the beginning and end of the day, cancelling assemblies, sports, games and other events that create crowded conditions. Create space for children's desks to be 1 meter apart and impose strict measures to avoid unnecessary touching. The Education Department is assigned to ensure all schools comply with these orders and ensure that appropriate guidelines are developed consistent with health, safety, and hygienic procedures in order to manage the spread of the COVID-19 in schools. All schools in the region are required to comply with the ABG Department of Education checklist for protocols in schools. Normal public service duties in Bougainville for essential public services resume this week on Wednesday, 16th of May 2020. All government offices must ensure proper new normal safe workplace arrangement are consistent with the health, safety, and hygienic procedures to be placed at the work environment with technical advice from the National Department of Health as adopted from World Health Organization practices in order to manage the spread of COVID-19 at the workplace. The government offices must ensure proper record keeping of staff during work hours to enable tracing in the event of employees showing symptoms of COVID-19 and are tested positive. They must also ensure that public employees delivering essential services under the state of emergency who may be exposed to COVID-19 must be provided with personal protective equipment as prescribed by the National Department of Health for the performance of their duties. The new normal procedures from DPM must be adopted and applied in all government offices in Bougainville. Member for South Bougainville and Minister for Information, Communication and Technology, Timothy MASU, has acknowledged workers for successfully completing classroom projects while maintaining the emergency orders. Minister MASU said he is very proud that the workers faithfully worked and completed the classrooms, which are now ready for use. He said the 3-in-1 elementary classroom in Luisay village is the biggest project in Kopi constituency that has already been completed. Other completed projects in South Bougainville now waiting for official opening are a double classroom in Tugiu Primary School and elementary classroom in Nakore Primary School. He said there are many other projects under his ministry which will be completed soon, and he is very happy for the people who are contributing in the project's implementations. You are listening to the New Dawn FM News. Emergency order number 2 that states except on medical grounds, there shall be no commercial flights into Bougainville until proper quarantine and screening facilities are fully established remains in force. Subject to the emergency order, commercial flights into Bougainville will commence only after the required quarantine, isolation and triage facilities are secured in Bougainville. Once the facilities are established and designated, all passengers coming into Bougainville will be quarantined at the designed quarantine facilities. No passenger arriving in Bougainville is allowed to be quarantined at their own facility. The order states that following consultations with the national controller and airline operators, the controller can allow flights to take passengers out of Bougainville. Meanwhile, work on the quarantine and isolation centers should be ready by the end of this week, with work on the Ahela YC Hall to be completed by Wednesday this week, while the Suin Isolation Center to be completed by next week. Chief of Banoni Patrick Eromate has raised a query regarding the term of the present ABG House of Representatives if it is still legal. He raised this concern and asked that clarification be made after the issue of the election writs on the 27th of March 2020 was postponed due to COVID-19. He said if it is illegal, then whatever decisions the members are making are all illegal, especially decisions on paying large amount of money on coronavirus awareness. Mr. Eromate said people are not happy about the ways engaged by the ABG members with its machinery, the public service. He said many of the members do not know the right way politicians should perform their duties to serve their people in terms of providing the public goods. He mentioned that a corrupt system has been established, that every electorate's quarterly grants has been paid into the members' personal accounts, which probably been spent on personal matters. This has been the New Dawn FM News in English. You can also see our news on www.bougainvillenews.com, www.bougainville.typepad.com. You can also follow us on Facebook and Twitter. You can also listen to us on the New Dawn FM YouTube page. On behalf of the news team, I am Dolores Talasi. You have a pleasant evening.